Well, we've got lots to talk about. I want to actually let's roll it back a little bit. I know you live here in Vancouver, and you've been here for how long now?
I always say 10 years, but it's been at least 12 or 13 years. I moved from Toronto, where I was born and raised, over to Victoria to do grad school. And then after a year, I was going to go back to Toronto. And then I thought if I move back, I'm probably going to stay there forever because everybody I know is there. And people had told me that Vancouver is a great place for writing, like the stand-ups are good writers, and I was a new comic, so I decided, hey, why not? Let's try it. So I moved here. I was going to stay for a little bit, and then I kind of fell in love with it. I met a man who I'm married to now. He happens to be from Toronto, though. His parents live like 20 minutes away from mine. They are not impressed that we haven't moved back, but it's just too nice here. As you know.
Yes, it's very nice here. But let's go back to born and raised in Toronto. You initially had a career that was very corporate focused, right?
I initially did a few things, honestly, like in a bid to search for something. I can't say that I know what it was, but as someone who was raised with a kind of authoritarian parenting style and like a lot of Asians, different kinds of Asians and people of color, I didn't ever consider anything that was not conventional. So I hadn't explored sort of anything at all. So yeah, I pursued school. I did a master's. I had started a PhD. I actually started a PhD at the same time that I pursued stand-up comedy. Sort of, I don't know what I was doing, but I had started working on Bay Street actually, and like, you know, big business and corporate technology and business as a way to further explore, actually. I wrote my LSAT and my MCAT, and nothing ever felt right enough to, like, invest in. I think I was always afraid of, like, being pigeonholed and doing only one thing. I never got any solid career advice from anybody that I followed. I just knew that I didn't want to be only one thing. I think that comes from being a person of color that grows up in an area where there aren't a lot of people of color, and people assume they know what you are. They tell you what you are. Oh, you're an Asian girl, you must love math. That is what a local vendor in my neighborhood told me. And even like gender roles and things like that. And even growing up in a culture that's kind of misogynistic, quite frankly, like, you know, the Korean culture, like a lot of others. I just didn't like the idea of other people telling me what to do or be or not having control over, you know, what I did with my time or who I was. So it was I did a lot of different things. And when I did school, I also like taught at the university. I also spent half a year, maybe less than that, like being a bouncer at a nightclub, just to experience.
You were a bouncer at a nightclub? Wow.
Just to experience what it would be like, because I had never grown up with the ability to express myself or really explore a lot of different things. So I guess it was curiosity.
So you jumped into comedy. I mean, what was your first, what went through your mind the first time you had to perform in front of a crowd?
Oh, what went through my mind? I mean, well, I'll say I didn't just like jump in. I took a course. And for me, like the course itself was not useful, but it was symbolic of like me starting a thing, and it was an investment time-wise, like every Thursday at the Second City in Toronto, and money-wise as well. So we had a course, and then the first set was actually very like friendly in terms of the audience, because it was like a recital. You remember recitals at the end of the course, and it was like a Sunday afternoon with like everybody's friends and family. So I think it went okay, but I'll tell you, the thing I really liked was like the whole weekend leading up to the performance. I was cold sweating, and I was so nervous in a way that I don't think I had ever been before. So it was a foreign feeling, but something that I really welcomed. I enjoy being a little out of my comfort zone, and I really liked the challenge, which is part of why I pursued it in the first place. So I think I just like kept doing it because I really liked being uncomfortable and exploring this different thing.
Were you funny as a kid?
I would say I digested funny as a kid. So my parents worked all the time in the convenience store that they owned and ran, and we lived on top of it. And we were always watching TV, I have to say, from the second we woke up until the minute we went to school, and right after school finished. Like, we'd start watching TV at like 3:30 until I slept. And I slept in the living room a little bit later on because my mom brought her parents over. We didn't have enough room. So I was like the sofa kid for like 7 years. But that just meant more access to the TV, you know? So a lot of what I consumed were like the sitcoms of the 90s and the late 80s with the laugh tracks. So that contributed a lot to my sensibilities. I don't know if I was funny. I remember knowing, how to make people bend a rule, like my parents and things like that. And a couple times when I had a big laugh, I remember really liking that. But I don't think that's different than a lot of other kids.
What's your process? What I mean by that is, look, some people set aside time to write, right? And some people just go, hey, that's a great idea. Let me write that down. Literally, they'll have a little booklet or a notebook with them, always writing down ideas. How does your process work to actually write a joke?
It's a combination of those things, for sure. The main part is I'm always writing everything down. And this is a little unfortunate because before I did comedy, in my notes app, I would write these ideas for these amazing inventions that could have ended up being multi-million-dollar inventions. But the second I started comedy, the notes pad was just premises for jokes. I mean, very, very different from a monetary perspective. So I'm doing that like all the time. But then, you have to execute on an idea. So yeah, I definitely am somebody who has to dedicate time and consciously put effort and time into writing. But then I think the better that I got at it, the more I could sort of go on instinct. There have been jokes that I've written or tagged majorly while I was on stage. So the ability to be like really present. I don't mean to sound super cheesy, but like really in it at the time. No, like, because a lot of times when you start comedy, you're so worried about like saying the right words and remembering the joke that it becomes a little bit robotic. So the better I've become at comedy and the more I've been able to come with my real authentic self and like real human energy and the desire to connect with myself and with the audience, the more alive I have been and more able to, make little bits of magic when I'm on stage. That's what I'll say. But also, the more I do it, the more I talk about things from my real life, real experiences, especially after becoming a parent. So yeah, it's a little bit more shoot from the hip than before, but it's not because I'm getting lazy about it. It's more because I believe in some magic happening when I become a little bit unhinged and less controlled, coming from at least academic backgrounds that were a little bit more strict and structured, like science and engineering. I really can get in my head. When I do interviews like this, I have to remind myself, you're a comedian, okay? Have fun, because I can get really deep and serious about things. So it's a mindset shift for me as well.
What I love about stand-up comedians is I almost view you as maestros, that you because you've got a microphone and you can take the crowd any way you want.
Sure, yeah.
And you feed off them as well at the same time.
Yes.
But the control that you have is it's just through the premise, joke, interacting with them. It's quite fascinating how much you can accomplish and do when you're doing that.
Yes, or fail.
Yes, occasionally, right?
I actually kind of think of it, I think that's a great analogy. In the beginning, I used to think of it kind of as golf when I used to golf, because you can control only so much, right? There's the conditions, there's, energy levels and feedback in so many ways. Do you know what I mean? The wind, the ball, the turf, and all of that. So there's so much that I can control, but so much that I can't control. So that's why it's really important to be adaptable also. And then just sometimes realize, this one was not my best. You know what I mean? Like, this whole thing is growth. You know what I mean? And I don't judge myself as harshly as I did before. I think because I have, competency and faith that it will get better. Like, there's always going to be a better set.
You were mentioning Asian Heritage Month, and you were talking about growing up above a convenience store, your parents working long hours, classic immigrant experience, right?
Yeah.
How much of that drives you today? I mean, I could imagine earlier on in your career, it really drives you. You're at a different stage in life. You're married with child now, and a lot of that comes out in the act as well. How much does that immigrant experience still drive or certainly inspire some of the comedy?
Oh, yeah. I love that question because, there's a direct way that I address my background when I tell some jokes about growing up, right? And those experiences and, you know, the sort of relationship with my parents, which I touch on somewhat, but secondarily and more in kind of a really neat, cathartic and deep way, in the last year or two, I think I've really processed a lot about my growing up, a lot of, like we all have, you know, childhood trauma, and understanding, especially as a parent, how our childhood impacted us. And I think I have a lot more pride in where I came from. I think, you know, in the earlier days, I would stay away from talking about things that were ethnic or, you know, things that I thought I was not proud of, like growing up poor and things like that. And I actually am very, very proud of all of it right now. And I'm, you know, wholly accepting of where I come from and how it's led to who, you know, who I am today and where I am today. So it's all part of it. I cannot even differentiate or separate the jokes that are about that and not, because it's all part of like who I am.
Well, it speaks to resilience as well. Your background.
Isn't that?
Yeah, it drives.
Isn't that such a term that's used for Asian, you know, people of color, for sure?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everybody. I mean, the immigrant experience. Just it runs deep with any kid who's either you know, came here very young or had immigrant parents, especially. We don't got a lot of time, but I'm just curious, what comedians today do you look up to that you really enjoy?
Myself. I like myself. No, I'm only kidding. You know, it's funny when you become a comedian or get to a certain level, like I am definitely a comedy fan. I appreciate and will take away from any comic anywhere at any level, you know, what someone's doing right or well, or if I like a joke or whatnot. I don't necessarily have like idols. You know, it's interesting, and I don't even know. This is not even a purist comedy thing. But because comedy and being a comedian has become such an enterprise now, right, with social media and having your clips out there, and people have podcasts and things like that, when I appreciate comedians lately, it's for the business they run as a comedian. So right now I'm listening to an audiobook by a comedian I've worked with and really like. Her name is Zarna Garg. She is an Indian woman who was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, and I think in her late 40s now, I think she recently turned 50, and has got kids in like university and things like that, just came out authentically as herself in her accent and her cultural clothing and is killing it. She just opened for Tina Fey and Amy Poehler for like their whole tour, and she just goes with her real voice, and like she really operates her business well. And I mean that with the greatest of respect. And I've talked to her about this, and she's given me a lot of inspiration about all these things around comedy that we do, like posting clips and booking shows that don't seem as fun, or it makes it feel like, oh, I'm taking away from the art. But she really inspires me to see it all as a thing in its totality. So she is someone I've really admired a lot. And I just started reading her audiobook like yesterday, and it is so fun and so entertaining. So I admire anyone honestly doing it. I mean, we talk about resilience, but also grit and perseverance. It takes a lot to still be here doing comedy. So anybody who's been doing it for like over 5 years or even like 10 years deserves a lot of respect, because it is hard. It
is very hard, but I think it gives a lot of control to performers and comedians, especially these days with whether it's podcasts, whether it's YouTube. The distribution is amazing, and a lot of freedom for them as well.
I think so too.
I think it's wonderful to see.